Good evening, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back. I am so glad that you guys are joining in with us for the second night, night two, as we dive deeper into the divorce of the topic. I'm sorry, divorce, the ugly truth. Had an amazing evening last night. But hey, guys, I'm Brady Robinson of Robinson Empowerment Group. For those of you that are just now joining us for the first night, you are in for a treat. We are doing some really strong and in-depth interviewing questions just about on this topic that is so tiptoed around in our society today, especially from a male's perspective. So we are talking about the ugly truth tonight, guys. I'm excited. But first, guess what? Last night was record-breaking numbers. I am so excited about that. So a few things, go ahead, hit the like button, especially if you enjoyed it last night. I know you already liked the video from last night because we saw the numbers. Thank you so much for that. And if you have not already subscribed to this channel, go ahead and make sure you subscribe to the Effective Living channel. Guys, I am so excited. Coach Ricardo, how are you feeling? Because there was a lot of buzz around that topic from last night. I know you got the phone calls and the texts and the comments. How are you feeling?
It was a thoughtful day, Brady. It was a thoughtful day, and I am looking forward to tonight's conversation along with tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday night's talk. But it was thoughtful. It was a lot to think about.
Yes, it was. There was a lot of chatter, a lot of buzz, a lot of comments. As we were saying on the first night, last night was our first night. We kicked it off. We went in detail. We went in there. We had some great questions, like 7 or 8 questions. Coach Ricardo was very honest and transparent, speaking on his own perspective and his view of his divorce, and just getting down into the deep and the ugly truth of it all. As you see on the screen, life is far too short to spend it immersed in an unhealthy relationship. I think that is so true. That's so good. But just a little bit of background. Coach Ricardo was married. He got married in 2000. He married at the age of 25. And this is for you guys that missed that introduction on last night, but we're going to catch you up because we're going deeper tonight. His divorce was final in 2018. So he had 18 years of marriage, and he chose to be transparent and to speak out on this topic. We don't see this too often from me. What made you do that? How did you just say, okay, I need to speak on this? What prompted you for this week session?
Well, thank you, Brady. I think because I'm fast approaching my second year anniversary for having been divorced, 2 years divorced, 3 years separated, and I just feel a peace in my heart, and the timing to be right to help as many people as possible understand just some basic truths. It's amazing what we go through as individuals that are married that unfortunately find ourselves having to go through a divorce. I wanted to share my story, and I'm hoping that it will help those who are viewing, wherever they are, strengthening your marriage or coming to some conclusion as to how bad things may be and how you need to move forward. And so I'm sharing my story to help. I want to help. And based on the emails and the text messages and the calls today was a clear indication that there were a large number of people who says, listen, from this day forward, I'm committed to doing an annual checkup, and we're doing great. I'd had a few persons told me they're doing phenomenal, Brady. Their marriages are doing great, but they never thought about an annual checkup, because sometimes you could think you're doing well, not realizing from the inside uh, out something is going on that can damage what you think can be destroyed. Because I never thought my marriage could be destroyed. I never thought I would lose my wife, which I felt as though this would be the woman that I was going to go to my grave with. As a matter of fact, Brady, I had the joke of simply saying things like, I'm looking forward to celebrating 50 years of marriage. I said that often. I said that frequent. I said that a lot. And so to know now that after 18 years of marriage, I had to file for divorce, really speaks to the fact that this need to be looked at, and I was prepared to answer some questions and will be prepared to answer more questions at the end when individuals maybe put their questions forward. I just think it's important that those of us who have had the experience, we share what we experience so others can learn from our experience. I teach this, Brady, as a coach. Experience is not the best teacher. Learning from someone else's experience is the best teacher. You need not go through it to be able to have to testify that you went through it. Wisdom says, I don't need to fall in the same hole that you fell into. If you tell me about your bad experiences or your challenges, I may be able to prevent some of those challenges in my life. And that's the goal of these conversations.
Absolutely, absolutely. Very good. Guys, there you have it. That's just a snippet of what we are about to dig into. Guys, last night's topic, day one, was heading towards divorce, hiding the truth. We talked about hiding the truth. We uncovered a lot of great information, a lot of things that I believe were just freeing for those. After I went back and looked at the information and just read the comments, felt that a lot of people were free. But tonight, again, our topic is pride, shame, and embarrassment. This is day two, night two, guys, the second day of this interview for divorce, the ugly truth. Okay. We're talking about pride, shame, and embarrassment. For those of you that are still coming on, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. We are about to jump into some more questions, and we're going to just take our time and explain. But a lot of what we did, the two words that stood out most last night was transparency and clarification. There was a lot of transparency. Thank you, Coach Ricardo, for telling your story and speaking from the heart and being honest about it, which that's the only way that we can help other people. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. And I have a couple questions, guys, that I've really put some thought into, and we just want to break it down and go deep and talk about it, because what we find, we're not being honest about it. And you definitely don't see this happening on the male perspective. For the male side, we hear the woman all the time, which is why this is a great interview, because now we get a chance to hear the other person's side, the male side. It's two people in the marriage. So I believe that's why this is just really blowing up the way it is. It's going to continue to grow from here. So we'll go ahead and dig in. My first question for you, since we're talking about pride, shame, and embarrassment, in a marriage that's going through extreme challenges, what is your view on pride?
Brady, I think pride is so dangerous. The Bible says pride cometh before a fall. On our last interview, I mentioned that I had gotten to a place where it had someone asked me, because I had picked this up somewhere, that a colleague of mine was using this as a reference point, and I thought it was so good. And I also thought it was true for me, which was, hey, how's your wife doing? How are you guys doing? Hey, man, we're doing great. She's doing great. She's married to me. And it wasn't, I was thinking it was pride. I thought it was an assurance, a belief, a conviction, a stance that says we got it going on. But really, what was happening there was some level of pride where I was starting to feel some kind of way that really I was doing better than actually I was doing. And I think that's where pride really starts to show itself, where you're perceiving that you're achieving and accomplishing and doing well, when in reality you may not be doing as well as you think you're doing. And so I think I struggled with pride, and had to really examine myself and examine where we were at the time.
Okay. And that's a great answer. Thank you for answering that. Where did you find yourself feeling shame or embarrassment?
Brady, the fall of our marriage, the hit was really at the 10-year window, as I mentioned before. But having to go and sit with someone and say, we're going through marital problems to the degree that I believe I'm about to lose my marriage. That was strong. That was embarrassing for me because I didn't thought that would ever happen. I thought I was exempt from that. I thought I was in a bubble. I thought that things were well. And obviously we had our bumps in the road. Every marriage do. We had our indifferences. Every marriage do. We had our areas where I thought compromise was necessary, and I thought that there was a level of compromising occurring in our marriage at different points. However, it was embarrassing to know that, okay, my now ex-wife had decided to make a number of decisions that caused us to have to sit down and be advised and get counsel on how do we move from here. And the magnitude of the problem spoke to me as a man that came across like I was not doing my job. I was not being the man that I was supposed to be. So it was embarrassing to know that I have to be a minister, and then possibly have to now talk to a number of people that I submit myself to about the fact that I'm losing my marriage. It was embarrassing. It was shameful. It was hard to have to call close friends, to have to deal with church and leadership, and I've been a part of a number of organizations, denominational organizations, to now be one of those guys, ministers, Christian ministers that I was popular in the children's ministry space. So to find myself having to be one, now being put in the category of losing my marriage was hard. Was I didn't know how to talk about it. It was hurtful. It was damaging. It was emotional. I was emotional wreck for a long time, but I still knew that I had a responsibility. I knew
Mhm.
that I was not going to allow whatever I was going through to break me, but I was embarrassed to say uh, me and my wife was getting a divorce. I felt ashamed that I failed, and I started to feel like I failed God. I felt like I failed His church. I personally felt as though I failed in my overall vision because I already had plans for my 20th year. I had plans for my 25th year. And overall, I kept talking a lot about my 50th year being married. And those were early years. We talk about 50 years, but my big joke and fun moment was that I would get remarried in the Bahamas. I would renew my vows in the Bahamas, and so to know that I had moments where uh, I showed up and I didn't have my wife with me anymore, that was hard. And we built a platform where you saw both of us a lot, and I liked it. I liked knowing that I was covered. I didn't want to come across as a guy who was uncovered, just loosely out there. I travel a lot, but anybody who knew me or knew us knew that my wife at the time was very close to me and all that I was about. And so I would say to people, when you see me, you see her. When you see her, you see me. I felt like we had a lot going for us.
Okay, thank you. And I want to part of your answer when you said that you're connected with a lot of different communities and religious groups or different organizations in the ministry world, the embarrassment part that kind of stood out. I want to expound on that. Did when you had to say it out loud that I or me and my wife are getting a divorce, is that when the embarrassment came? When you went public with it? When I say public, when you had to tell those entities that you guys were involved in, when did the embarrassment come? Was it because you had
It,
to go
it,
public?
it, it was two parts. It was
Okay.
two parts. It was one. She chose to make decisions that goes against who I was. I thought, like, you know what? You made decisions that really just spoke to my manhood. Like, was I a man? Was I responsible? Was I handling my affairs? Was I the man that I was supposed to be when it came to being the husband and covering my home? So it really, really was embarrassing to know that a number of her decisions continuously was had me questioning me. And so the embarrassment was, shoot, you ain't got it going on as much as you thought you had it going on. And that's where I think pride was in there a little bit, because maybe, some people are like, well, that'll humble you, if you had a big head prior to this moment, it really humbled you. I'll tell you the truth, it really humbled me. It opened my eyes up to the truth that I thought I had a lot going for me in relations to, and I still do feel as though I have a lot going for me, but it challenged me to not think so highly of myself that I ought to. I knew that. And so on one part, it was me as a man being embarrassed, feeling some kind of way. I'm from the Bahamas, man. I'm a proud, confident guy who was building myself up to be a respectable man on any front. And I often pride myself on saying, you know what? I was married for 18 years. No one ever disrespected my wife. No time did my wife ever say she needed something that I felt as though she needed, where I did not deliver and responded appropriately. And now we're at a place where our marriage is falling apart, and we're about to file for divorce. And I'm questioning, can I fix this? Can I fix this? And so for a lot of times I was trying to figure out, how can I fix this? How can I get to the root of addressing this? So I was in denial that this is beyond me. I mentioned last night that I filed for divorce, but what I didn't mention, initially she filed for divorce first. She filed for divorce, and I said, I don't want divorce. I'm praying through this thing. This is going to change. You're going to change your mind. Nothing is going to destroy my marriage. I come against that in the name of Jesus. Let me tell you something. I came up from a Pentecostal church. I spoke in tongues. Let me tell you something. I anointed the bed. I anointed the pillow. I called the prayer saints. Miss Deborah, God bless her soul, an intercessor, an incredible woman of God. 2-3 years, most people don't know, she was one of the intercessors who were praying. I called a number of other individuals who are intercessors, who I said, pray for my marriage. The enemy is under attack. And for a long time as a pastor, I heard a lot of women say that over the years. Pray for my marriage, pastor. We're going through. I had never met a guy up to that point who said, I want my marriage, but we're going through. Pray that we can keep it together because she's gone. And so my wife was gone, but I still wanted my wife. And so I said, I'm not getting a divorce. Long story short, she filled out the paperwork and she asked me to sign it. I'm like, I'm not signing it. Because listen, let me tell you something, divorce is not in my history. It's not in my DNA. It's not going to be a part of who I am. And I was stubborn. I said, I'm going to hold out because this could change. And until I realized, after meeting with my therapist, after going through a number of sessions, after seeing a number of behaviors, and after getting a release in my spirit that this is not going to fix, your issues are not going to be fixed before at this particular time. You're going to need to move on. And so that's so pride and shame and embarrassment all came about when I thought I was the fighter. As a matter of fact, I said to her and a number of colleagues who are in the midst of it, I would be the man to fight for the marriage by all means necessary. A lot of guys won't fight. I felt as though I had a lot going for me. I could have easily moved on. I'm from the Bahamas. I'm loved. I am beloved. I have a lot of people around me who support me, love me, believe in me, and just would be there for me. But I knew that I did not want to influence the world and lose my home, lose my marriage, my first love. It's just I didn't want it.
That's good. That's good. That's perfect. Because the next question that I have for you is, do you believe your image was more important than your marriage? And we're being transparent
Yep,
tonight.
yep.
Continue.
That's a great question. I don't think I ever thought my image was more important than my marriage. However, I found myself when I was losing my marriage, I was concerned also about my image. I thought that I was living above reproach. I thought that I was dotting the I's and crossing the T's. As a matter of fact, when we were getting ready to go through a divorce, I said, so my image somewhat had some play on it because I kept mentioning when I started sitting with my counselors that, you know what everyone gonna say? You know what everybody gonna say? He's the traveling dude. Yeah, he should have set his skin home. He should have stayed around that house a little bit more. He's traveling too much. That's the problem. These men want to travel all around the world. And my thing was, okay, what about the pilots who are gone? What about the military guys who are gone? What about the Navy guys who are on the boat for 6 months? What about those? I was just gone for 2, 3 days. That shouldn't be the cause of me losing my marriage. So uh, on one part, I felt some kind of way about my national and international platform because one again, I presented myself as a married man, not a traveling guy that was open to be entertained or introduced to any woman. So for me to find myself now having to travel, now having to say that I'm divorced. Let me tell you something. I went to a couple of meetings that my ex-wife and I traveled to on a few occasions,
Mhm.
and the questions, just was, so where's your wife? Hey, I hadn't seen your wife in a while. And let me tell you something, those were hard moments because I was like, just, she's not here. Please keep her in your prayers. I'm here to fulfill an assignment. I'm going to try to fulfill. And it kept getting harder and it kept getting harder. So, did it affect my national platform? Did it affect my imagery or about my professional position? I think it did. I think for a long time, I probably stayed around longer because of my position nationally. I think if I did not have a minister position, I probably would not have made 18 years. I probably, when initially we had hit the 10-year bump in the road, I probably would have walked off at that point. But I was ashamed, I was embarrassed, and I was fighting for what the biblical position was, that is, for better, for worse, for richer, for poor, till death do us part. I'm not going anywhere. We're going to work through this. We're going to make it through this. And to find myself having a peace to walk away and to finally release that was a major, major challenge for me.
That's good. That's good. And with the image in the marriage, because like we addressed last night, you have been in children's ministry over 2 decades. And now we're faced with a total 360 of your marriage. At what point did you not worry about your image? Try to either save your marriage, or were you just at this point, I'm gonna let it go and protect my image? But now at this, or were you, I'm not caring about my image, I want to fix my marriage? That's where you have to make that choice.
I Along the way, I got to the point where it was really more about my marriage. So the from 15, 17, 12 and a half to 17, it really was more about my marriage. It
Okay,
was
that was the
really all about.
clarification I was looking for.
It was clearly the bumps in the road window when I decided, you know what, forget the vision, forget the
Mhm.
accomplishing these things in life. Save your marriage. When I made that U-turn and not become so committed to try and fulfill my life's purpose, I turned and said, you know what? I can acquire all of this because a lot of things are going for positively for me well right now. Or, Ricardo, you can make the turn and try to save what look like you're about to lose this. And so I made the turn for that. But that was the initial junction for me. It was at that turn that made me say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and fight for my marriage. However, uh, I personally believe that I got a release when it came to not worrying about the shame anymore. Was when I already knew that the marriage was over. Uh, I knew the marriage was over. The filing for divorce was already in place, and now I'm having to call meetings, and so I had to go and meet with our pastoral staff. I had to call different advisors and accountability persons that were in my life that was walking with me personally through a number of these things to say, I'm about to make this decision. And a lot of different people who prayed with me during that time to say, okay, you're making this decision. And then I started to call some family members and so forth, which was extremely hurtful, extremely saddening for me to call my mother, to call my siblings and say, you know, this is what's happening. And so I started to do that with just my inner circle.
So
But the struggle.
let me jump in there. Excuse me. And hey, I'm not trying to interrupt, but we are breaking it down
Yep.
because that brought a great point, and I wanted to give you this question because it sounds like you're already going there.
Yep.
But you were 42 years old when you filed for divorce.
Yep.
Okay, 42. Were you still, and it sounds like you were, but I don't want to answer for you, but were you still struggling with embarrassment at that age? Because you just mentioned that, okay, I have to call my mom, my family. So were you still struggling with embarrassment, or had you been, are you at this point, are you, hey, this, it is what it is, take it or leave?
It was never is what it is. To
Okay,
this day, it still is what it is.
okay.
Uh, I'm doing 100 times better than I was doing then, maybe 1,000 times better in relations to whatever people think about it. It was a decision that had to be made. But it was after we were going through the court system,
Mm.
and my ex decided that rather than we continue to deal with this and eventually tell those who were closest to us what we were going through, she decided to post it on social media that she was going through a divorce, and it it sort of like instantly shocked the world for the people that were in both circles, and so what, some 300 comments in almost an hour on that feed, and so for on one part, the embarrassment of, oh my goodness, it just became exposed to everybody that your marriage is over. But at the same time, it was a breath of fresh air to say it did
Okay.
actually, it needed to happen, and I didn't know how that would happen. She made it happen by going ahead and talking about going through a divorce is rough, and but then I started getting blasts, and so
Yeah.
people started saying, you know, just keep coming at me, and so, but that was a rough part there, to have to go through a couple of those phone calls I wanted to accept because I respected the individuals who were calling, but for the most part, the high level of opinions that was coming, that was negative, was really really hard, and I just had to constantly remind myself, this won't break me.
Absolutely.
I'm going to come out of this thing stronger.
Mhm.
And in spite of what the devil meant for bad, somehow God's going to turn this around for the good. And I am not going to vent. I'm not going to become angry. I'm going to guard my heart. But I was still embarrassed. I still had to travel. I still had to respond to what a lot of people were asking, that at the time I felt as though I needed to respond.
So going public, putting it on a social media platform, did you know that she was going to post this first? Did you know she was going to make the announcement?
No, I did not know she was about to make
Oh,
an announcement. Neither
so you were
was she
blindsided
advised.
by that. Okay.
I was usually, as a matter of fact, I was sleeping, and my phone just kept pinging, and I was
Mhm.
thinking, what in the world is going on with my phone just pinging, and phone just kept pinging, and somebody called me, and and the dude, the guy sort of rebuked me.
Mhm.
The guy rebuked me
Yeah.
because he went on and said, brother, I'm disappointed at the highest level.
Mhm.
Uh, I read your wife's post on Facebook. I said, what post? He said, Your wife's crying for her marriage. I have seen you traveling. I've seen you going all over the place, all posting all up on social media. I know this was going to happen. Fight for your marriage, young man. Let me tell you something. Get your act together. You need to humble yourself and stop traveling and go ahead and fight for your marriage. And God is my witness. If I was if we were in person together and he had said that to me, I hadn't been in a fight in about 30 years, probably. I hadn't knocked anybody in about 30 years, but he would have lost a couple of teeth
Right.
out of his mouth, probably. In that moment,
At that moment.
it was
Yeah.
so bad for
It was
someone to
very
call,
intense, sounds like.
because he never asked me anything. He just came in and he assumed automatically, hey, brother, the post that I read spoke of pain that you caused. And, and then a number of other crazy text messages. So shame, embarrassment, and hurt just continued to show itself up. But I had to tell myself, I am not going to let this break me. I'm not going to allow this to cause me to lose focus of who I am.
Did with and we're gonna move on after this question, but going public unexpectedly, did that force you to have to explain it to people you weren't ready to, that you already had a process? I was gonna get to this person, I'm gonna tell them, but now it kind of like exposed everything, it put you out there. And we're talking about shame and embarrassment tonight.
Yeah.
Did your level of embarrassment and shame heighten after the social media post?
No, actually, it did not anymore.
Okay.
Really, because it was like, it's out. It was out. As a matter of fact, 3, 4 days after that, I actually slept better, because I didn't sleep well for probably a year, easily, because I didn't know how I would be dealt with. And because I was a popular children's minister, I didn't know how I would be dealt with. And I just dread and fear that I was going to be dealt with harshly. And I didn't know how to handle that. I didn't know how to prepare for that. And so when the public post came by her, it sort of, a couple of days later, I was able to respond to those who called me, and I felt a need to respond to appropriately, and let it be what it was. And it was hard, because the people who I felt that I needed to respond to, I didn't get a chance to respond to initially prior to that social media post. It was just like every single time it was a crying moment. It was just an overwhelming. I went to a conference at one time where I had to speak, and if I did not get stopped a half a dozen times after that post, and each person wanted their spill on the whole deal, it was too much. I remember one time somebody who was traveling with me said, "Man, do you want to do this meeting?" And I canceled another meeting because I just didn't know how to keep going, but I didn't feel as though I needed to quit what I was called to do. I just think, like what I'm going to talk about really tomorrow, was learn how to respond to people about what was going on in my life. I since learned that. And so, fish don't stop swimming because a hurricane is coming. It just has to adjust how it swims. And so I was in a hurricane. I was in the roughest season of my life. I had no clue on how to swim as a fish in that type of water. But since then, I've taken the time to study how should I respond in the most troubling of times.
Okay, good deal. And it sounds like there was a difficult time for you. And like you said, the unexpected post and just kind of being blindsided with saying that as a public figure, you don't look like you ever struggle with shame or embarrassment.
Yeah.
How do you not break your character?
How did I not break my character? Well, the reality of it
Because
is,
hold on, because before the public social media post, a lot of people didn't know, right?
no, no, no. And I
So
had
you
people who,
walked every day with your head held high, like you said last night. You said last night you still kept your head, clean cut. You didn't walk around moping like they do. They talk about and oh, woe is me.
yeah,
A lot of people heard for the first time
yeah,
because you have a lot of mutual friends.
yeah,
But as a public figure, a lot of people have never seen you struggle because you.
yeah.
How do you not break character? Somebody's watching that needs to know how to keep a straight face when I go to work, when I go to church.
I told my ex this, and I still live under this principle. Right now as a life management coach, I teach people there's a role for feelings and then there's a role for decision. And I think it's important that we learn how to make decisions and live on the decision and then allow ourselves to have feelings. I later learned that both of those have their appropriate places. If you allow your feelings to overtake you, you will lose yourself. But at the same time, you can't be so just decision driven that you don't have feelings. So for me, what kept me is what still keeps me to this day. And I told this to my ex when we first sat down with our counselor. I said, first and foremost, as much as I loved you, I made a decision first before it was just love. And what I mean by that is when you think about the covenant, when you think about the vow, that vow is not a feeling, that vow is a decision. The decision was the commitment to the vow. The love was the feeling that her and I had on numerous occasions. But the thing about love fades. Love has high and low moments. Love have days where you don't feel it. And so if you are living and operating your marriage under the premise of just how you feel, you're not going to do well. And so for me, I did not build my marriage. I've still to this day not built my life on how I feel first. I do have feelings, but my decision is first. And that's the reason why when the marriage was starting to turn upside down and look like it was unsalvageable, I was still able to stand on the decision that I had made. We can make it through this because it's about the decision that we can fix this by addressing whatever needs to be addressed. But I'm not going to allow me to be angry and respond from my feelings. So from a public figure standpoint, when I show up, I wasn't showing up with my feelings. Now, when I talk to colleagues, when I would talk to my brothers who were my accountability brothers, when I spoke with them, there were moments my feelings overtook me. And I would break and I would cry and I would be angry and I would just sob. I sat in my car on numerous occasions thinking, how in the world is this happening to me? But then at the same time, I knew, dust the dust off your feet, shake your dust of water off, whatever, square your shoulder off, and go respond to what you have to respond to. And there were many days that I had to do that. Just do what I had to do. And in the midst of it, the decision to guard my heart, the decision to follow through on my responsibility, and the decision to still look at what I was feeling from an emotional standpoint, but not allowing my emotion to cause me to do something stupid.
That's good. That's good. These questions are really getting the answers that I was hoping that we will pull out of you. Thank you again for your transparency. This talk is going very well. Again, I know that it is going to help someone make some really clear, precise decisions in their lives. So share with us a couple of examples on when you were feeling the most shame or embarrassment about having an extremely troublesome marriage.
Oh, um, there were so many of them, but
Towards the end, how were the holidays? Are you still showing up as a couple?
we never showed up. There wasn't that kind of bad deal. What was shameful and embarrassing was when I had to call my mother
Talk about that.
because I did not have the kind of marriage that I needed to call her every month, every so often that says this woman of mine's, uh, you know, uh, what was up, but to call her and tell her I need her to come, and I needed her support, and that was hard. That was heartfelt. It was. Uh, I never had to call her like that before, and so for her to come within a 7-day window was big. Uh,
Was your mother up to breath? Excuse me. Was your mother? Was this her first time hearing about it, or did she already know? Did she was? I mean, did this phone call shock her?
the phone call shocked her because I never really, I never leaned on her
Gotcha.
to walk us through any challenges. We had
Okay.
our advisors, we had our counselors,
That was the
and so
I was
that
for,
was
right.
a big moment. Another big moment. I was inducted in my high school Hall of Fame, and my sisters were there, my siblings were there, and family was there, big support. And I wasn't officially divorced yet, but my wife wasn't there. And the question was continuous, just a bunch of questions on, hey, where's your wife? And it was hard. It was hard, and so uh, that was uh, that was major. Some of you guys are asking. They have a question in the chat. If you have a question, put them in the chat.
Please
I,
keep
would-
mentioning.
I would I would I would answer your question. And so if you feel free to put your questions in the chat. If we have enough questions, we'll do a whole session on just answering the questions. And I
Yeah.
like that question because I did an interview similar with someone who got a divorce, and I asked the same question. So we're gonna ask that question in a few minutes. But back to you, Brady.
Okay. And I was looking at a few of the questions as well. And so that was a troublesome time. That was a hard time. You said when you had to tell your mother, and when a big thing like being inducted in your school, that's a big thing. I remember when that happened. Why don't you feel the shame and embarrassment today? Because you're talking about it freely, you're open. How did you get over that?
Brady, before you move to that too, Brady, the next really hardest group of people to have told it to was my
Mhm.
children's ministry team. My next that was big. that was uh that was hard because
Was
we
that a
both
group that you both? I was just gonna say, was that a group that you both served in
we
together?
we
And
both served in for a long time, and so for more than 10 years we both served on that same team, and we've become like family to a lot of those people, and so we were awkward probably in a lot of ways that we were dealing with each other over the years in those last years, but we respectively dealt well with each other. We did not try to show up each other in any way. We weren't disgusting or ugly ever to each other. To this day, I still personally believe that we tried our best to not be just outright disgusting overall to each other. Down to the end where the divorce started to kick in, it got a little bit salty, but outside of that, that was a hard blow when I had to meet with my team.
what was when you met with your team? Were they asking for her side of it, or were they just focused on you? Because
There
this
were
was a team
people,
that you
there were
both
people,
worked in together,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
There were people who asked both sides of it. The truth of the matter is, I'm not responsible for sharing both sides of any story to
Mhm.
anybody. I could. There is always two sides of a story. I am sharing this story because she knows I'm sharing this story. I'm sharing this story because there's nothing I'm saying is added to this story that is not true. And so I'm sharing this story because I feel free to share the story. But at that time, when I would have said to a few people, they said, "Well, where's she? Where was she? Or how is she?" She's doing well. I'm still praying for her to this day. I believe in the Bible says, pray for them.
Yeah.
And I pray for her to this day. I believe that is a responsibility of me as a Christian, as a minister, and that's my son's mother. I will always pray for her. So, but when my team was being told about us going through a divorce, I did not, and I respect and appreciate my pastor and overseers at the time who did not feel the need to make it a panel discussion and tried to have a group. I don't know who. I wouldn't even want to be in a room. I don't care who leader I'm a part of. If their marriage is falling apart, who's me to say y'all need to sit down in the front of us and tell
Right.
us why y'all aren't working out? It's unfortunate that y'all is not working out. We respect both of y'all and would have hoped that y'all were working it out. But if a couple decides to separate, they're deciding to separate. My talk tonight is centered around the fact of when you're dealing with pride, shame, and embarrassment, you should know how to deal with that to make sure it don't break you. Is that you learn how to make sure that you're not your job, you're not your spouse, You're not your past. You're not a decision. And so no one in a marriage is perfect when they're going through a divorce. Nobody is exempt from having done anything that would have probably caused the other person to not be frustrated. As a matter of fact, my ex would often say a number of things to the fact that when someone is getting a divorce, there are two sides to the story, just as stated just now. And I believe that. But at the end of the day, I am very confident and very assured of my side. And that's what I'm sharing tonight. And I will share this side. I can't share her side. She can share her side.
Absolutely.
And at any given moment, I think she will. As a matter of fact, she chose to share some of her feelings at some point. But
Mhm.
for me, maybe one day we both will share our sides together, because I don't hate her. I don't not love her. I chose to make a decision that I had to make for my betterment and for my well-being. I went through the pride, the shame, and embarrassing moment as a man, and I
Mhm.
chose to now learn how to respond whenever life presents to me that type of behavior. Again, I know how to respond. I did not act like a knucklehead. I did not do anything inappropriate to her or to the whole concept of manhood to cause me to even get myself in trouble. And so I can remember my mother told me, "Don't you get yourself in no trouble, boy. Don't do nothing dumb.
Mhm.
You came from the street. You could snap and have an attitude and be a knucklehead, but I kept myself because God kept me. That's all I could say. He kept me in my right mind.
Mhm.
He kept my spirit strong, and he kept my heart guarded. And today, I am not an angry man."
Okay, but I want to back up because you said in this last part, you said that dealing with the pride, shame, and embarrassment, it can break a lot of people,
Yeah.
right? And it can break a lot of people. You having the public image, just the confidence that you have, did it ever break you?
Yeah, it broke me, but I was fortunate enough that I have some brothers, man. I have some mothers. I have that was that stood with me. When
Mhm.
I think about who stood with me, I'm telling you, I am here today because of a spiritual mother. I'm here today because of my biological mother. I'm here because of my brothers. I was covered. If you want to talk about the testament of being covered, I was covered well. I was covered with counsel. I submitted to counsel in the midst of it all, and
Mhm.
I came through it with a lot of tears, a lot of questionable moments, but I had a support system that was healthy and was strong, and they helped navigated me through what was the worst time of my life. So did I break or did I fall apart? Maybe more in their arms, in my
Okay.
spiritual mom's arms, in my mother's care, maybe around my brothers. It was probably, but it was never public. It was never at a place where I it was in a safe place, and I'm
Okay.
grateful
Safe
for that.
place. That's great, and I think that's important. Safe place. I wanted to expound upon that because a lot of times men feel that they can't break down or they can't
Yeah,
fall apart,
yeah,
and it is okay. It is okay in a safe place.
yeah.
Thank you for saying that. The key, the freedom tonight. Um, my next question, we kind of touched on it. You didn't really answer it clear enough for me, so I'm going to ask it again. Why don't you feel the shame and embarrassment today?
Because I personally believe I did I did it right in regards to my counselors. I think I did it right according to the biblical uh, position. I did it right according to my therapist. I followed the advice given to me, and I started taking care of my health. I started having my mind renewed. I started to set myself up to become a healthier, whole person in spite of the bumpy roads that I had experienced prior to. And then I realized at some point, what you can confront, you what you can confront, you can conquer. What you don't conquer, chances are, is still a problem. And I personally believe I will always have reflective moments of where I think about the hardest of times during those times, but I feel as though I did the work. And I tell clients now when I'm working with people, do the work. You want to make sure that you're good. You want to make sure that when, embarrassment, pride, shame, it is what it is. I now know that nobody is exempt from a bump in the road. I've lived long enough to feel as though, 18 years, I'm grateful that I initially got 18 years, but here's the deal. I've seen other people gone through and experience so much more years, and it didn't last and it didn't work out. I just knew that the cards that was dealt to me, I thank God that I learned how to play it well. And now I have the confidence to stand and say, I personally believe I played well with the cards that were dealt to me. Now, someone else might be judging how they perceive I'm playing with my hands, but it's my hand. At the end of the day, I'm going to be judged by the Creator for how I respond on a daily basis. And he told me, the Bible teaches that I should guard my heart with all diligence. The Bible tells me for those who have done me wrong, I should pray for them. The Bible tells me that I should not be pointing out other people's problem. I should be addressing my own. And so what I did over the last year, over the last 2 years, over the last 3 years, Brady, is I've been working on me.
That's good. I see in the chat we have someone put your past hurt will bring deliverance to someone today, someone one day. We can learn from other, like I like what you said when you said experience does not have to be the teacher. I like that. Thank you for sharing these tips. My last question, I want you to give us some strength and some a really good answer. Your answers have been great. I've enjoyed this. I have really been enlightened. But as an effective living life management coach, how important is it for one to live one's life above pride and without shame or embarrassment?
It is critically important, Brady. Brady, today,
But that may not come natural for everybody.
no. And that's where, if that's not where you are and you're still struggling with pride, shame, and some form of embarrassment, you need to do the work to get past that. Because the truth is, all of us deal with some level of pride, shame, and embarrassment, but you cannot deal with it to the degree that it is causing you not to live your life, what I call effectively. You want to get to the point where you're realizing, yes, I'm a little ashamed. Yes, I have a little pride. Yes, I'm a little bit embarrassed. But the truth is, since I went through what I went through, Brady, when I sit with my therapist, I'm very clear and honest. When I sit with my pastor and my coaches and my advisors, I'm very clear and honest. The truth is, I'm an open book. I have nothing to hide. I am not afraid to express what I've experienced up to this point. But when you're dealing with shame, pride, and embarrassment, I think you're trying to protect a lot of a facade. You're trying to keep an impression up. I don't have no impression up to keep up. If I had a bump in the road next week, I'll talk about that bump in the road. If I've been having challenges over the last 3 to 6 months, I will talk about those challenges that I'm currently experiencing. At the end of the day, I am free. Mother Wells in the Bahamas used to sing the song, I am free, praise the Lord, I'm free. No longer bounds, no more chains holding me. If I knew what I knew now, if I knew then what I know now, I would have set both of us down and say, we're going to break this together and allow the help of good advisors, therapists, and professionals, whatever it is, to get us past this. At the time, a lot of what I know now, I didn't know then. I had a decision to make, and I made that decision. Now, moving forward at 45 years old, I'm not living my life from a shameful standing place. I am not here to live from the external. I'm here to live from the internal. What people think of me don't matter as much as what I think of me. And what I think of me comes from what he thinks of me. And as long as he's thinking of me that I'm doing well and I'm feeling good about what I'm doing for him, guess what? I'm okay.
That's good. That's good. there you have it. There you have it, guys. There you have it. We have got through our questions. This has been a great interview. There, with this whole transparency, we have the transparency tonight. You talked about shame, pride, embarrassment. You spoke a lot on last night and tonight about being surrounded with good people, having good friends, counsel, having wise counsel. The Bible says, seek wise counsel. So we're saying that I want to make sure everyone knows about the Effective Living platform, that you can always get coaching programs. Also, if you guys have not gotten your book from him, the Effective Book, he talks a little bit more about the this topic in his book. You can get that from ricardomiller.com. But guys, we are ending this interview now at this time. Tomorrow we will be here at 7:30 for day 3. You're in now. You've heard day 1, you heard day 2. It only gets better. Day 3, we are talking about friends, family, and Christian people. Guys, you have make sure you reach out to a friend, someone that's having problems in their marriage. Even if they're not, it's a good conversation. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Share the link with them so that they can join in. Tomorrow we'll be right back here at the same time. I hope you all have enjoyed tonight's interview where we went deep about pride, shame, and embarrassment. Also got some tools and techniques on how to overcome that and to free yourself from it. But I want you guys to join us tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. You guys have a good night. See you then.